friends, welcome back to Fridays with Faye. I have wrestled with something lately, and maybe you have too. What do you do when you've prayed with everything inside of you and God says no? Or maybe he doesn't say no, maybe he simply stays silent. Maybe you've prayed for healing, and maybe you've prayed for your marriage. Maybe you've prayed for your child, and maybe you've prayed for a miracle that still hasn't come. What then? It's easy to trust God when the miracle comes. It's much harder to trust him when it doesn't. Living with ATTR has forced me to wrestle with that. I've prayed for healing, I've prayed for strength, and I've prayed for this disease to stop progressing. Then there are the prayers I pray as a mom. I've cried out to God for Bradley. I've begged him to heal wounds I cannot reach. I've prayed for breakthrough. I've prayed for restoration. I've prayed that one day I would watch my son become the young man I know God created him to be. Yet here I am, still praying, still waiting, and still hoping. And if I'm honest, sometimes I look at my own life and then at Bradley's and I wonder, God, are you even listening? I've never doubted that God exists, but I have wrestled with whether he was hearing the cries of my heart. And if you've ever felt that way, you are not a faithless Christian. You're in the company of David, Job, Jeremiah, and even Jesus. Men who love God deeply, yet weren't afraid to bring him their deepest questions, instead of pretending they had it all together. Maybe you've whispered those same words. Maybe you've prayed for years for someone you love, and maybe you've watched them continue to struggle. Maybe you've waited for the miracle, and it still hasn't come. We don't always say those thoughts out loud because we're afraid they sound unfaithful, but I don't think they do. I think they sound human. I think they're the cries of a hurting heart reaching for a faithful God. David prayed those kind of prayers, and Job prayed those kind of prayers. Jeremiah, even Jesus prayed it in the garden. Oh, my Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will. Matthew 26:39. The Father didn't remove the cup. The answer wasn't the one Jesus' humanity desired. And because of that, we have salvation. Sometimes God's greatest work is happening in ways we cannot see. That doesn't make the pain hurt less, and it doesn't make the waiting easier, but it does remind us that God's no isn't cruelty, it has purpose. And that's hard, really hard, because I want to understand. I want the checklist. I want to know why. I want the miracle. I want Bradley to be healed. I want this disease to stop, and I want life to look different than it does today. But then I come back to these words in Proverbs 3, verses 5 through 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your path. Notice what God never promised. He never promised that I would understand. He never promised I would have all the answers, but he does ask me to trust him. And those are two very different things. I've realized something through this disease and through praying for my son. If my faith isn't built on getting the miracle, then my faith dies when the miracle doesn't come. But if my faith is built on Jesus, then even when my heart is breaking, my foundation remains. The same God who parted the sea is still God when mine doesn't open. And the same God who healed the blind is still God when I continue living with disease. The same God who raised Lazarus is still God when I stand before prayers that seem unanswered. His character is not determined by my circumstances. His goodness isn't measured by whether he answered my prayer the way I wanted. It's measured by the cross. And the cross tells me he loves me. The empty tomb tells me that death never has the final word. And his word reminds me that his ways are higher than mine, even when I cannot understand them. And maybe that's the miracle I need to remember today. Not that my circumstances change, but that my Savior never has. So friends, today, if you're holding another unanswered prayer, don't let go of God, but hold on tighter. Not because you understand, but because you know his heart. And maybe your miracle will come, and maybe it won't come this side of heaven. I don't know why. I wish I did. But I do know this. God is still worthy when he says yes. He's still worthy when he says wait. And he's still worthy when his answer feels like no. Because my hope has never really been in healing. My hope has never really been in the answer I was praying for. My hope has always been in Jesus. Until next Friday, if you're carrying an unanswered prayer today, don't mistake God's silence for his absence. Keep praying and keep trusting and keep holding on. And one day we will understand what we cannot see today. But until then, we walk by faith and not by sight. Because sometimes the greatest miracle isn't that our circumstances change. Sometimes the greatest miracle is discovering that Christ is still enough, even when they don't. Till next Friday, be blessed.